Hey everyone, this is Zen Ferguson with CRM Sweepers LLC, and I'm here with Mr. Ian Gotts, Executive Officer of Elements Cloud. Could you please introduce yourself really briefly and your product?
Yeah, sure. Again, first of all, thank you for asking me to come and join you. Yeah, Elements.cloud is a business analysis adoption type application, helping keep people capture, document business processes. And we're particularly aimed at helping Salesforce implementation, so Salesforce admins, to understand their business processes so they can make a better job of configuring and automating Salesforce. So that's where we're focused. And this is a repeat of a company we grew from 97 to 2011. At that time, it was called Nimbus Partners. It was an on-premise application aimed at the Fortune 500. That company was acquired in 2011. And a couple of years ago, I got the founders back out of retirement. And we decided we would do the same thing again, this time make it available to the Fortune 5 million with a freemium model, which is proving to be extremely popular. So we're very excited about the growth we're having at the moment.
Okay, so it sounds like it has a pretty strong history and you've brought a lot of people together to really make this successful.
Yeah, absolutely. Yeah, we had 10% of our clients were Fortune 500 companies. Companies like Nestle, Chevron, AstraZeneca, Barclays. And you'll start to see there's a common theme there. Every one of those companies is highly regulated, so they have to document what they do. And therefore, there was a strong return on investment, a strong business case for documenting their operational processes. But what we discovered in that 15, 20 years was pretty much every company, the moment you're maybe over 200, 300 employees, suddenly you need to document what you're doing to get consistency across the operation. The problem last time is we were too expensive for some of those companies, and they typically would go, we can't afford you, let's use Visio or PowerPoint or Lucidchart, even though they realized those things were really diagramming tools. They weren't very good for managing a hierarchy of processes. Hence, now launching Elements.cloud, three things are coming together. First of all, new modern technology in the cloud, which means it's easy to get to everybody, and that sharing model really works. Secondly, we are obviously a freemium model, which means there's no barrier to people getting started. And we're also providing a number of free models that people can start using, so they don't even have to start with a clean sheet of paper. And thirdly, we are focused on the Salesforce marketplace, which is obviously growing very rapidly. And there's an army of Salesforce admins who are desperate for technology like ours.
Sounds excellent. So it sounds like a very, very good product, especially for companies that are highly regulated, as you mentioned. And it's essentially a process documentation tool that really helps customers to, ease the pain of having to keep track of all their different steps within a certain process of whether it's manufacturing or project management or the sales process. Is there a specific organization within a company that would benefit most?
People often ask me about the product, and I guess the shorthand is it's Visio on steroids. Visio or PowerPoint enable you to draw single level diagrams. We're enabling you to draw those diagrams, but actually manage them in a hierarchy, which means that you can take a top level diagram, which is relatively simple, but then all the detail you drill down to the next level and the next level. So all that information is still there, but it's actually organized and described in an easier way. And yes, I said we looked at highly regulated industries, but any company needs to document what they do because staff need to understand how to get the job done. And it could be anything from an innovative startup who's starting to scale in different countries, and therefore they want consistency over, their customer success process or their implementation process, project management, or it could simply be onboarding of new staff, getting consistency over how you go through the process of hiring somebody, going through the recruitment cycle, and then onboarding them. Again, every company has to do that. And with a freemium model, it's not a huge commitment. If you only want to use it for the HR side, fantastic, use it. over time you may find it's useful in other areas. And I think an interesting question is, how big can this get? I mean, it might be only 10 or 15 diagrams, but I think about one large bank who was using technology from our last company. They have 10,000 diagrams in that process map. And you might go, well, hang on, that's ridiculous. But no, they're a retail bank, they're an investment bank, they are wealth management, and they're regulated, which means they have to write down everything they do. It's a big, complicated business. Managing 10,000 diagrams with, if they're all sitting in a shared drive in Visio with some form of Excel spreadsheet, would be a nightmare. And that's the problem we solve.
Wow, so it's a very consolidated program that helps bring everything together. Would you be able to show us a brief rundown of your product and just, show us the high level features and kind of how that works?
Yeah, absolutely. So the first thing is that Elements is designed as an application which is obviously multi-user, but it has a fairly elegant sharing model. So we have the concept of spaces. So in a space, you can have any number of process maps. So the screen we're looking at the moment is the Awesome Admin space. That's a public space where any of the maps you can see on screen there, they're all available. Anybody who registers can look at them, copy them, and start to use them. So, but a space also could be private. A space could be a team space where I'm working with some of my subcontractors, some of my staff, or maybe a consultancy. We create a space, all of the people are invited into that space, and we can work in a secure way. Okay, so a principle of a space. Underneath the space, we have a process map. A map is that group of diagrams. And you can see on screen here, we've got Salesforce Change Management, Salesforce Sales Process. If I click on the Salesforce Sales Process, it opens up the diagram editor.
So within the space, each organization would create their own space and then work out of there for a certain project?
Yeah, absolutely. Or a company could have multiple spaces. They could have one space which is their operational. This is the master. This is the one that everybody looks at. But they could have another space which is a sandbox because they're looking at evolving the company. They're playing with new ideas. They could have another space which is where they're working with, say, some partners, maybe a joint venture, completely separate from the operational business. So there's no limit to the number of spaces that a company can have. No limit to the number of users that they can have. That's all part of that free model.
Okay, thank you.
Okay, so what we're looking at here is a process diagram, and it looks pretty much like a Visio or a PowerPoint slide. But as we start to dig into it a bit more, you can see there's a great deal more capability. First of all, we have a very simple diagramming approach. You have an input. In this case, you're looking at, say, target list, run email campaign, and then some outputs. And then we have a resource at the bottom, which is who does it. In this case, we're saying the marketing director runs email campaigns. And if I wanted to add more detail, I could drill down to the next level of detail, as in drill down and create a diagram, or I could link to things. So if I just flick to edit, because obviously this is a managed application, so it's not just like a Visio diagram that anybody can edit if they can find it. I have to have edit rights to be able to change it, which I've done. If I click on this activity, I could right mouse click and I could attach a note, or I could attach a link to a URL, which could be a document which describes how we do email campaigns, or it could be a link to a video, or it could be a link to our email program. It could be MailChimp or Pardot in Salesforce.
So I was going to say, it looks like it keeps things neater in a very elegant way. So instead of having to constantly add notes on top of one of these boxes, it helps it consolidated within that one single area.
Absolutely. And think of us as a little bit of signposting. You can say, okay, rather than having lots of notes all over the screen, if I want for this activity, I want to go, what are the three things I need? I need the phone, I need the script, I need to find out which screen in Pardot I go to, and I want some hints and tips when I get there. All of that can be attached to that activity. The other thing we've got actually is something called a data table, where you can create a form which maybe have 4 or 5 fields, attach it to multiple activity boxes, and now we're capturing custom metadata. This might be, how do I have to configure Salesforce to make this process step work well? It could be a different form which is about customer touch points. It could be a form about what are the key performance indicators that we should be capturing around this step. So again, it's more than just a diagram. We're starting to give you a lot more valuable information, which is typically somewhere in your company is just not connected to the process diagram. That last thing called reference model node, that's part of our Pro feature, which enables you to link back to your Salesforce configuration. So a big issue for Salesforce professionals is having an undocumented org. All these things have been changed. You've added new Visualforce pages, you've added workflows, you've added approvals. Where do they relate back to a process? They're just sitting in Salesforce. So that reference model node means you can link it back to a table which we hold, which then synchronizes back with the setup inside Salesforce. And that's not coming until the end of the fall, but that's part of our Pro feature, and it's called Configuration Manager. So that's a paid feature. So back to what we're talking about. So we've got links here, but I could now drill down, and I could drill down new, which says that I'm going to create a brand new diagram. Or if somebody's already been creating some content for me elsewhere, I could import it underneath. So if I click import, and let's say, we want to research the customer. There's some activities around how we run an email campaign, and someone's created that map. So that's not just a diagram, but that could be a diagram with some structure. If I click import, you can see now there's a little corner on that box which says there's a drill down. If I click on that drill down, underneath it is a diagram that someone else has created, but you can see that also has its own drill downs. It has links. It has resources.
Oh, so if the processes are similar, you don't have to constantly recreate it. You can just import it and it automatically goes on.
Correct.
Okay.
It also, if you've had 3 or 4 people mapping in different areas and you suddenly realize you want to build a more consolidated picture, so you've got people mapping their marketing processes, someone else over is mapping their sales process, and someone else is mapping the quote process. Well, we could build a top-level process map or diagram that says all the way from email marketing through sales through quoting, and then pull them all up underneath and build that hierarchy. And as you can see, if I just go navigate back up, I'm now back up at the level above it. So suddenly it's more than just a simple diagram. We've actually are starting to get a great deal of information but rather than complicate the top level diagram, we're now pushing it down to lower levels of detail.
That is amazing. What would you say, I mean, just out of curiosity, out of all of these different features, what would you say is your favorite out of all of them?
That's interesting. It's like saying, which is your favorite child? It's quite a tricky question. I think the thing which blows people away most and is the most powerful is that ability to drill down and link. That you could talk about all the different diagramming things we put into the diagramming to make it really easy to use in live workshops. But a fundamental difference between this and pretty much every other product out there is the hierarchy of diagrams and the linking. And that's what sets it aside. And sometimes it takes people a short while to get their head around it. But very quickly, they can, once they've seen how their massive great flowchart can be simplified into something that everybody can understand, they're won over.
Nice. And this can all be accomplished pretty simply just by visiting elements.cloud?
Correct. Go to elements.cloud, click on the register button in the top right-hand corner. It's free. You can then attach yourself to some of those public spaces if you want to go and say, copy this map and take a copy of it and put it into your private space, your personal space, so you can play around with it, or copy it into, create a new space for your own company and start working on it. There's plenty of help, all the help's there in terms of, we're finding that people are literally registering and getting going and starting to really understand their business processes in a way they never saw them before.
Okay. Do you have any closing words?
I think go and start using it. You will be staggered by how much easier it makes your life as a Salesforce admin or as a business analyst or in compliance. If you can capture processes in a simple way which everyone, all your stakeholders understand. And just get going. It's so easy to get started.
All right. Business analysts, admins, stakeholders, you heard it. Elements.cloud, and signing off. Make sure to visit their website.